Please turn to Deuteronomy chapter 21. Deuteronomy can be found on page 163 if you're using the Pew Bible in front of you. Deuteronomy 21. Moses is continuing to prepare the people to go across the Jordan into the Promised Land, and here he gives them a number of additional laws. He starts off with laws about unsolved murders. He gives several laws related to family situations, and then describes, once again, something related to death. Now, regarding unsolved murders, the idea is that in order for them to continue to be accepted in the land where God is taking them, that He is giving them this land. This is not a land that they can have apart from keeping His covenant. If murder is permitted, then they will be kicked out of the land. If they do not serve Him the way that God has called, they will be kicked out of the land. And so what is needed in order for the land to continue accepting them in the case of an unsolved murder, in the case where no culprit can be found? There's a sacrifice that is made in order to atone for that guilt in the terms of the covenant. It's not something that would grant anyone an eternal salvation, but it would grant them a forgiveness in terms of that Mosaic covenant such that they would be able to live in the land. And it goes beyond that, and it speaks about marrying a female captive. When a woman is taken captive from another land, what would be the requirements? And particularly, among other things, she must be given a month to mourn in order that she can mourn her family. Now, I find this interesting for a number of reasons. One of them being that I believe the Bible is fairly prescriptive when it comes to mourning. A lot of people don't see the Bible as very prescriptive when it comes to mourning, that it's only descriptive when it comes to mourning. But a passage like this really is more prescriptive in nature, that it has an idea of what an acceptable mourning period is. We live in a society that's really unrestrained in some ways when it comes to mourning, and mourning is often used as an excuse for all kinds of sinful behavior. But if we understand the Bible actually gives us guidance for what a mourning period should look like, after which you could rejoice in something like marriage, is useful information. It continues on, and it speaks of the rights of the firstborn, particularly in a case where a man has multiple wives, in that society where that was legal, not necessarily moral, but it was legal. Man has multiple wives, and he has one wife that he loves more than the other wife, but the wife that he loves more has a son that was born later. And so he wants to treat her firstborn as his firstborn, but really his firstborn is the son of the other wife. What should happen in that circumstance? Is he free to just give the inheritance as he sees fit? No, there's a right of the firstborn. This is another thing where I believe the Bible is more prescriptive than most people acknowledge. These are matters that I don't have completely studied out for myself, but I would like to and be able to, at some point, hopefully in the not too distant future, present a biblical view of things like inheritances. I believe the Bible is fairly prescriptive on these things. And even the notion of there being a right of the firstborn who would receive a double portion is not something that just comes up in the law of Moses. It's something that predates Moses, and you see even in earlier passages. Speaks of a rebellious son who cannot be disciplined. Remember, God has given them these 10 commandments that they must keep. Of course, these are moral law, but in addition to that, they must keep these things in order to be accepted into this promised land that God is giving them, that will spit them out if they do not. So, not just the 6th commandment about murder, but even the 5th commandment. What about someone who is not honoring his father or his mother? Likewise, this must be dealt with through removing this man. And then speaks of the man who is hanged on a tree. If someone commits a crime punishable by death, he can be hung on a tree, but his body shall not remain all night on the tree. Rather, it shall be buried the same day. because the hanged man is cursed by God. Now, there are a number of points in time where this comes into picture. You see the baker, his head is lifted up off of him. It describes him hanging on a tree back in Genesis. Later on, you see things like Absalom hanging in a tree. And there's a lot of instances in the Bible where you see God's curse on someone represented by hanging on a tree. But most especially, and even as explained by Galatians, you see this in Jesus Christ, that when he is hanging on the cross, the word for the description of the cross often just being a tree, that he's hanging on a tree, that he is bearing the curse of God that is due to us. All of us are owed the curse of God, having sinned against him. Christ, in hanging on the tree, is representing that he is bearing that curse on our behalf. So, all of these laws have some application for us today. Perhaps in their particulars, they were for that people, but there are principles here that are at play for us as well, and most especially illustrate the truth of the gospel that Christ has borne the curse on our behalf. Deuteronomy chapter 21, beginning in verse 1. If in the land that the Lord your God is giving you to possess, someone is found slain lying in the open country, and it is not known who killed him, then your elders and your judges shall come out, and they shall measure the distance to the surrounding cities. And the elders of the city that is nearest to the slain man shall take a heifer that has never been worked and that has not pulled in a yoke. And the elders of the city shall bring the heifer down to a valley with running water, which is neither plowed nor sown, and shall break the heifer's neck there in the valley. And then the priests, the sons of Levi, shall come forward, for the Lord your God has chosen them to minister to him and to bless in the name of the Lord. And by their word every dispute and every assault shall be settled. And the elders of that city, nearest to the slain man, shall wash their hands over the heifer whose neck was broken in the valley, and they shall testify, our hands did not shed this blood, nor did our eyes see it shed, except atonement, O Lord, for your people Israel, whom you have redeemed, and do not set the guilt of innocent blood in the midst of your people Israel, so that their blood guilt be atoned for. So you shall purge the guilt of innocent blood from your midst, when you do what is right in the sight of the Lord. When you go out to war against your enemies, and the Lord your God gives them into your hand, and you take them captive, and you see among the captives a beautiful woman, and you desire to take her to be your wife, and you bring her home to your house, she shall shave her head and pare her nails. She shall take off the clothes in which she was captured, and shall remain in your house and lament her father and her mother a full month. After that you may go into her and be her husband, and she shall be your wife. But if you no longer delight in her, you shall let her go where she wants. But you shall not sell her for money, nor shall you treat her as a slave, since you have humiliated her. If a man has two wives, the one loved and the other unloved, and both the loved and the unloved have borne him children, and if the firstborn son belongs to the unloved, then on the day when he assigns his possessions as an inheritance to his sons, he may not treat the son of the loved as the firstborn in preference to the son of the unloved, who is the firstborn. But he shall acknowledge the firstborn, the son of the unloved, by giving him a double portion of all that he has. For he is the firstfruits of his strength. The right of the firstborn is his. If a man has a stubborn and rebellious son who will not obey the voice of his father or the voice of his mother, and though they discipline him, will not listen to them, then the father and his mother shall take hold of him and bring him out to the elders of his city at the gate of the place where he lives. And they shall say to the elders of his city, this our son is stubborn and rebellious. He will not obey our voice. He is a glutton and a drunkard. Then all the men of the city shall stone him to death with stones. So you shall purge the evil from your midst, and all Israel shall hear and fear. And if a man has committed a crime punishable by death, and he is put to death, and you hang him on a tree, his body shall not remain all night on the tree, but you shall bury him the same day, for a hanged man is cursed by God. You shall not defile your land that the Lord your God is giving you for an inheritance. Amen.